Good morning. So my kids are still asleep and it's dark outside. And I have been pondering some thoughts. A few thoughts, actually. Some unpopular thoughts, probably. But that's okay, since when has having unpopular thoughts ever made me not talk about them? So yesterday, I read a post online by Andrea Alexandrova, and I'll link it in the comments, which, by the way, she's one of my favorite book reviewers of late. Fantastic. She's had so many good thoughts. If you aren't following her already, definitely follow Andrea. But she says, it seems this the satanic online women, that's you and me, we're at it again. The John Piper website, Desiring God. Now, we know that John Piper is known for condoning and promoting submission to abuse. And if you haven't seen that, I can also link the YouTube. Somebody link the YouTube link to his fabulous quotes underneath. So John Piper's website, Desiring God, had an article that just came out. And it says, women from the very beginning have been a special target for a certain pattern of deceit. Satan still favors the questions that felled Eve. One of his favorite ways to seed this destructive question in our day is through social media and podcasts. The internet is a new way. I didn't know the internet was new, but anyway, the internet is a new way that women, even those working at home, can regularly access a steady stream of advice, solicited and unsolicited. Our friends offer advice on how to deal with husbands and children. Some of Satan's best work is accomplished by women talking to women in the floating world of disembodied souls on the internet. So this was the quote from the Desiring God article, and I'm not going to link to it. You can go search for it if you want to give them the click traffic. I personally don't. Andrea Alexandrova writes underneath, do you know what this means? It means we are making a difference. It means they are getting uncomfortable enough to warn the women in their congregations to stay away from the horrid online Jezebels who will lead their souls astray. Instead of going online, they tell women to connect with other women in their local congregations because, of course, it's a lot easier to control the narrative that way. Andrea says, I love that we are finding our collective voice. I love that we are being heard. I love that these people are concerned. I love the exodus of women that is taking place from dark, lost spaces. I love that we are shining a light and giving courage and hope and support to women in these online spaces. And she says, sorry, Desiring God, but we're not going anywhere. Your women, on the other hand, they just might go somewhere. And I've been thinking about this because, I've experienced some of this too. Now, here's some irony. They weren't talking about women who teach women to submit to abuse, like the Transformed Wife, Laurie Anderson, or whoever. They were talking about women who teach women to stand up for what is right and healthy and healing, and calling them the agents of Satan. And, I've gotten women, I just got some lovely fan mail the other day from someone telling me how deplorable my audience is. But I'm also only in it for the attention. But your audience is so small. But you're only in it for the attention because you just clearly want attention because you keep talking about controversial subjects. And you are destroying marriages because those women that I know who, and this was a woman writing, those women I know who left their marriages and who woke up to their abuse, they weren't actually being abused. They didn't need to leave. They were not experiencing abuse. And you're destroying marriages because you're brainwashing women. Those women are naive and gullible and vulnerable to you brainwashing them to see abuse. And then they leave and you've destroyed a family because As an outsider looking in, I know they were not abused and they did not need to leave. They did not need to seek safety. So it's fun when I get messages like that from women. Now here's something interesting. Is it this Desiring God article about women being at home on social media and learning how to stand up for themselves and learning more about God from other women on social media? It was written by a woman and it's published on social media. So there's that. That's fun. But let's go deeper than this. I don't want to just be a little snarky. Because a lot of this, it's not solely this, but a lot of this is actually internalized misogyny. It's not just men who hate women and seek power. It's also women. And internalized misogyny among women leads women to defend abuse of powerful men. It leads women to cling to their own power. But it leads women, internalized misogyny, leads women who hate women, other women, who call out abusive men. We see this in the number of women who are willing to bend over backwards to protect the status quo, and they attack authors like Sheila Gregoire and Rebecca Lindenbach and Joanna Savatsky, who have Mount Everest of data, but they attack women for actually speaking out against popular materials and popular authors, because the issue for women who attack women is not that the women speaking out are inaccurate or that they're not scientific or that they don't have actual data and research. It's that the other women are mad that the women with the research are calling out powerful men. That's what it boils down to. So women who have internalized misogyny, women who are misogynistic, may not even realize it, but they do everything in their power to shame any other woman who breaks the mold. They work against those who are pursuing reform, who are seeking truth, who are standing up for righteousness. They vie for the approval of powerful men, not looking to live sacrificially for the approval of God, but women who silence other women because other women are speaking out truth are vying for the approval of powerful men. Their focus is on silencing women and or silencing men whom they view as weaker or more effeminate because they are protecting women. Anyone who threatens the equilibrium of power as they view it, whether that is other women or men that they perceive as kind of betas. And any men who speak out against abuse often get called by narcissistic, control-hungry, power-hungry males and females. They get assumed that they aren't fully masculine. I've talked with Eric Krasinski from the Preacher Boys podcast about the more he speaks out against abuse, the more he gets attacked by men and women as though he's a beta guy, like a less standard, sub-masculine kind of guy. This happens a lot to my amazing guy friends who speak out well against abuse. Now, this is because when someone has internalized misogyny, they may not even realize that they are speaking in hatred of women. And, I'm going to pause here. Melody says, a pastor told me once, marriage should raise you to a higher level of civility, not lower it. Wow. I heard that the night I went into hiding, waiting for my abuser to be served with a protection order. Girl, that is huge. That is powerful. But for so many, that's not the standard. And for these individuals, those who would silence others who speak out, their sense of power comes from feeling the approval of those they perceive to be in power more than themselves, instead of seeking to serve others and leave the power to God. Now, some would say, if you have haters, then you must be doing something right. But I wouldn't say that, because, yes, the idolatry of a powerful man, good comment. Because you're only doing it right if you are humbly and sacrificially following God's calling for you. You can feel hated, and it can be just as much the mirage of self-worship mixed with envy as it is the result of speaking truth. If you are self-focused and you are grasping for power and you are looking for validation from those you perceive to have greater power than you, and you are getting that validation by silencing those who speak truth, then you're really no different than those who cooperated with the Inquisition to silence the reformers. My friend Kevin calls it courageous empathy, when people speak out against those in power, following the real Jesus. I see someone say toxic masculinity. Yes, it could be, but this happens a lot by women to women. But see, Jesus says, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, for he has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim that captives will be released, that the blind will see, that the oppressed will be set free, and that the time of the Lord's favor has come. Jesus didn't prop up leaders who were harming the sheep. He called them out by name. So what does it really mean to follow Jesus? Does it mean don't make waves with religious leaders? Don't call out popular preachers? Don't name religious bestsellers that are doing harm and damage and the data shows it? Just promote the good. Don't say anything about the bad people. I don't think that's what it means. I think that it means not being afraid of the people who have the power to send you to the cross. Knowing that he could be sent to the cross and would be sent to the cross didn't make Jesus silent when it came to speaking out against corruption, idolatry, and abuse. Truth seekers and truth speakers, that's you and me. We are to be like John the Baptist in making the way for Jesus to come again. That does not get done by kissing up to the powerful in order to be favored by men and women. I hear people sling around the term, Jezebel spirit. All those women who get uppity and they start upsetting the status quo. But let's think about the whole Jezebel spirit allegation. In the story of Jezebel, Elijah spoke out against the abuse and the corruption and the idolatry of Ahab and the priests. And Jezebel wanted him dead for it. Now we have kind of a replay of that in the New Testament. John the Baptist spoke out against Herod's adultery and idolatry and corruption, and Herod's wife wanted him dead for it. The true Jezebel spirit is not speaking up against abuse. It's those who silence the ones who speak up against abuse and evil. Let me say that again. The true Jezebel spirit is silencing those who speak out against evil. I'm going to say that a third time. The true Jezebel spirit is silencing those who speak out against evil and abuse and corruption and idolatry. So the next time someone calls you a Jezebel, do a conscience check and ask God, am I speaking out against abuse, idolatry, corruption, and evil? And if you are, you keep going, because they have just named themselves as the Jezebel. Jesus said, then the king will say to those on his right, come, you who are blessed by the Father. Inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you fed me. I was thirsty, and you gave me a drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me into your home. I was naked, and you gave me clothing. I was sick, and you cared for me. I was in prison, and you visited me. I was abused, and you helped me find safety. I was homeless, and you gave me a place in a refuge. I was being threatened in my primary relationships, and you spoke truth to my heart. I was terrified for the safety of my children, and you helped me get into a domestic violence shelter. I was being beaten with words by someone who had an idol of power, and you helped me to see that that is not how God cooperates, so that I knew I could leave and get safety. Did Jesus say that the hungry, thirsty, foreigners, poor, sick, abused, betrayed, prisoners were all people who believed just like you? No. Jesus was saying that those without power are to be cared for by the ones who are his genuine followers. Those with less power are to be lifted up and loved. Those who struggle and who have been silenced are to be given their voice back. Those who have been dehumanized by others who exercise the abuse of power over them, whether it's in their marriages, their churches, their schools, their relationships, their family, those are to be empowered to live as full, righteous human beings and children of God. So when someone tells you that all those women on the internet and many men should stop pointing out things that make everyone so uncomfortable, you can remind them, or just remind yourself in your head if it's not the kind of situation where you want to get into it. Remember that the true Jezebel spirit is silencing those who speak against evil. And you keep being Elijah and John the Baptist. Because if you don't, then we have to ask ourselves, do we even know the real Jesus? Don't let women with internalized misogyny make you feel that you need to stay silent, because you know the real Jesus.